Misadventures, everybody. I'm Melissa Banczak, and welcome to episode 53 of Books Cubed, the show where I chat with the authors that you should be reading. It is Thursday, February 13th, 2020, and I have a really great show for you today. I am going to be chatting with Paige Lavoie, a young adult author. I have her book right here. I'm going to hold it up if you're watching Confidence, a Diary of an Invisible Girl. I'm back after a little bit of a winter hiatus due to illness, more illness, a lovely family reunion, and some more illness. So I'm hoping that the rest of the year is much nicer to me. Anyway, let us get right to the interview. It's a really good one. We talk about all kinds of great stuff, comic books and Star Wars films, and more comic books, more Star Wars films. Anyway, let's get to it, and I'll see you after. Okay, I want to welcome Paige Lavoie. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
I was so excited to find your book at the Indie Book Fest. I think I've got that right in Orlando, two summers ago.
Oh, wow.
I'm trying to remember what month. Is it like this not January, it's like June or something, right?
I know it's hurricane season because they ran into trouble with that one of the years. So that sounds correct.
Yeah. And I had some issues with my dog, and so I was there for all the panels the first day, and they were fantastic. One of my friends gave me a ticket, and I was very excited to get a free ticket to do that. I would have paid for it. And all these panels are fantastic. And then the next day I had an issue with the dog, and I couldn't get up there until about 30 minutes before it was closing. And I normally like to wander and look at every single table and read part of books, and I go home with armfuls of books. And what I did was I just went around and shopped by cover, which I usually never do because I've been burned a few times. So, when I saw yours, I walked by yours at first because it was a diary. And I'm going to hold it up for everybody. It is Confidence. I'm sorry. It's Confidence, Diary of an Invisible Girl. So I walked past it at first because it was young adult and it was a diary. And then I made went around and I had a huge stack full. And then I said, I got to look again. And I read like a paragraph, went, oh no, I got to get this. And then unfortunately it was at the bottom of my stack, and I work in order because I spend so much time looking at them all and fondling the books and all that if I didn't just read them in order, I would never get anything read. So when I finally got to it, I'm like, oh, I wish I'd read it first. It's so good. Aww. So I'm going to read your, before I get too far into this, I'm going to read your bio. Okay. Paige Lavoie. Did I say that right?
Yep, you did. You got it.
She's a vintage-loving young adult author from Orlando, Florida. She writes coming-of-age stories about geek girls, outsiders, and monsters. Paige loves telling stories about characters who find strength in themselves and create long-lasting friendships along the way. When she's not writing, Paige makes motivational pep talk videos for the local writing group community. And I'm going to say it wrong. Can you say what they call themselves?
Writers Atelier.
Streams creating writing and video games on her Twitch channel and can often be spotted strolling arm in arm with her husband, hunting for antiques to furnish their 1950s home. And you have a blog, and I spent a little time on your blog and your YouTube channel, so I'm going to put them in the show notes, everybody, and I recommend that you go and check both of those out because there was a lot of interesting stuff on both. So let's start with just this book real quick. So tell everybody just a little bit about what Confessions. God darn it.
It's okay.
Confidence. Why do I keep saying Confessions? What Confidence, Diary of an Invisible Girl is about. And it's a great cover if you're listening on the podcast. It is a blue cover with all these little drawings of like a pizza and a superhero mask and a camera. And then there is a what looks like a little badge you'd have when you go to a Comic-Con, and it has the title on there with her name, and that really caught my eye. Whoever did your cover, they did an excellent job.
Thanks. So, that was actually my husband and I. So
you did an excellent job. And a lot of times I say don't do your own covers,
and I don't anymore.
Yeah, but that was it's an awesome cover. So tell everybody just a little bit about what it's about.
So it was inspired by the idea of being or feeling like a background character in your own story. So we have Barbara, who she's got this cool superhero name. She was named after Barbara Gordon, and she loves comics. She would love to be like a comic book artist. But she kind of goes through her days feeling like she's completely invisible. She walks through the hallways at schools, just kind of without like a core friend group, feeling like she's awkward, feeling like even if she were to meet friends, they probably wouldn't like her. Uh, and she crashes into the cool new girl at school and kind of gets thrown into this life of like geeky fandom and comic conventions and making secret YouTube videos in the school's AV club, and learning just to that she can take up space, that she is allowed to be herself and be nerdy and be loud, and also the ups and downs of first friendships. It starts off very like glamorous friends, oh my gosh, this is the best, but sometimes there's a lot of like dynamics that you need to work out that can be a little bit unhealthy, and Cassie is a complicated character who's dealing with a lot of stuff herself. So
Yeah, and
yeah,
that's the
it's a
girl
lot
that
of fun to
she,
write.
yeah, the girl she befriended. And yeah, I mean, I can
Mm-hmm.
see, I felt a lot of sympathy and not that it was my story, but I completely understood. I'm 55. So, but I remember what it was like in high school. And I remember wanting to be in some kind of a group. I didn't read comic books as a kid. I watched hockey,
Mm-hmm.
but still,
Okay.
I got into comic books and things when I was a lot older. But I can totally understand. And written as a journal, it's written as journal entries, which shouldn't keep you from, you readers or your listeners out there, don't think that because it's a journal that it's going to be stilted or it's not going to flow as a story, because it flowed fantastically. I sat down to read it, and I think I read it in just a few hours, but it was 2 sittings. I sat down, I read about half, then I got up and made lunch and brought it back with me to lay in bed and read the rest of it. And I really enjoyed it. When it got to the end, I was ready for more. And are you going to do a sequel to these characters?
I've tried probably about 3 times. I have two that are completely like, I don't know, like finished manuscripts. Like, no, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say they're finished rough drafts, like extremely rough drafts. But none of them have felt right. None of them have felt like the right sequel. Where I'm glad that I've kind of experimented and stuff. There was one that was a short story that was like a Christmas special that they all went to Disney World. There was another one that was Barbara's cat Cinnamon Buns becomes internet famous, and they go to CatCon, and it's like it was funny and it had good moments, but like I sat and I read through it and I'm like, this just isn't right. And then there were a lot of books that I loved that were in that diary format that I read growing up, where each book was from a different character's perspective.
Oh, yeah.
So I tried starting it as Cassie and being like, Barbara gave me this diary that I'm supposed to do now, and okay, I guess I'll try, just to kind of get in her head, because I've had readers say that they like love that character, but also kind of hate that character because she can be
Yeah.
really mean at times. So I think if I ever were to do a sequel, you'd get to know, I don't know that you'd necessarily be in her head, but you definitely get to know her better and get to know kind of her passions, see a little bit more of like her mom, and kind
Yeah.
of, yeah, like some of the reasons she feels the way she feels. And
Yeah,
yeah.
I think that's a really good way to go, because she was a great character and there was a lot there that I still would like to know, especially the dynamic with her mother. Her mother's separated from her father and she was British, or was she
She
living
was
in London?
living in London
She
for
was
like
living in London and
yeah.
she kind of abandoned her for another family.
Hmm.
So I would like to see maybe Cassie go to England, you
That
know?
was another one I tried to work on, and I at
Yeah.
that point in time hadn't ever been to England before, and so it was a lot of me on Google Maps. And I mean, you can write about places you've never traveled, but it was a lot of research that was really daunting. And now my husband and I have actually like had the luck to get to travel there. So if I ever did revisit it, that's research I could like pour in, which would be nice. Like,
Yeah, she and Barbara could go and be working this convention,
that's true.
you
Ooh,
know?
that would be such a good way to get them over there.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it could be that the cat, maybe they have adventures where they take the cat and they do videos with the cat and they put the cat into these situations where the cat is a superhero. So the
Yeah.
cat
Oh my
gets your
God, that's
internet
so
following,
cute.
cat gets your internet following, and then they get invited to go to this con, and so they get all expenses paid,
Mm-hmm.
and that gets them over there for free. So you don't have to worry about, Barbara feeling bad about Cassie, right? Cassie
Mm-hmm.
paying for her way for her. She can pay her own way because the cat's paying the way, and the cat has to go too. And you
Yeah.
could have somebody babysitting the cat if you wanted to get them out with adventures, or they could put the cat in some kind of a stroller carrier, and the cat goes
God.
everywhere with them.
It's so funny. Yeah. So, I mean, like if I ever did write another one, there's a lot of material to play with for sure. Like,
Yeah, okay. If you're
um,
listening, we need comments about what you want to see for this sequel. So if you've read it and you want to comment, leave a comment in the bottom. If you're on the podcast, it'll be the first thing on the show notes. And if you're watching on YouTube, you know how to do that. So, okay, so you've got a new book out?
I have A Girl Called Monster came out in 2017, and then there's a couple of short stories I've published since then too. So there were some horror things which were new for me. I have A Girl Called Monster, which is a Frankenstein story, but it's really more like coming of age, and there's some dark themes, but it's overall not horror. It feels more, it doesn't even really feel urban fantasy. It feels very contemporary. She just happens to be a Frankenstein monster. Um, and then How I Met My Other is the other one, which came out last year on Valentine's Day. And it's all true stories about how people met their significant others. So some people wrote about their
Nice.
parents, some people wrote the stories of their grandparents. And then I wrote How I Met My Husband, Matt. So that was really fun to dive into. I've never really written, it's nonfiction, but in a YA voice. So it, yeah, I guess I don't really read a ton of nonfiction, so I'm not sure if how common that is to,
I
I guess,
don't
yeah,
know.
historical
Yeah.
retellings. Yeah, people do that where it's,
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of that where it will be, uh, there's that one book, Eliza and Alexander, and it's like a Hamilton reimagining, retelling. So
Okay.
she's taking history, but it's in a young adult novel, which is very cool.
Huh? I like that.
But yeah, I tried to keep it very active, first person, and it was fun. That's what I was planning on reading today. And as I
Yes,
was
read something.
practicing, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
as I
Read
was
something for
practicing, I'm
everybody.
just like, oh, cool. Let me just like cry. Well, okay, so I kind of picked a section in the center of the story. Um, and for some background, I had been checking out my husband for like 3 months before we were going out on a date. So I had seen him at this coffee shop where he was playing open mics a lot. He would host sometimes, and he was just like this very cute boy who would wear like suspenders and bowler hats. And teenage goth me was just swooning so hard, and I still am.
How long have you been together?
We've been together, married 8 years and together 10 years.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah, so he's just the cutest, and I thought he didn't know I existed. And the background of how we met, which maybe I should just find, and maybe I should read that part instead. Yeah, that part might be better.
Okay.
Um, let's see. Okay, so to start off with, we are at Natura, which is a coffee shop that still exists over by UCF. It's a really crowded night. I have some social anxiety, but it was way worse back then. So in crowds and crowded situations, I would pretty much just like kind of shut down.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it was not fun, and it still isn't. But I had some friends there, and my sister, I believe, like ordered my drink for me that night. So she went up and had to deal with like the cashier and like standing in line and stuff while I hung out with my friend Jessie. So The coffee house is long and narrow. It has quirky local art, including a papier-mâché dinosaur mounted on the wall, which makes you feel like you're kind of an extra in a movie. Tonight, it's a sardine tin-leveled crowd, full of indie rock kids. Cases of hodgepodge instruments are stacked up by the stage, right where Jesse is still flailing. The paragraph before that, I had a friend who was like, Paige, over here, which was very typical. Jesse is still flailing. Inching through the crowd, I accidentally step or elbow everyone in my path. My twin sister Lily, on the other hand, has no problem getting to the front of the line. She orders for me and I slip her some cash. She knows the drill by now. I hate talking to people. As I'm waiting for my drink, I notice a boy smiling across the room, shooting arrows through my heart. I'm not the type to get overwhelmed by smiles from cute strangers, but I've seen this boy before. So often, in fact, that I secretly call him Cute Hat Boy. The cute part is self-explanatory. He has giant puppy dog eyes and a glittering smile, dimples included. His shoulders are the kind you wish you could snuggle right into, and the hat part refers to the fact he's wearing the best hats. Hand-painted top hats, fuzzy knit caps, even bowler hats like the one he's sporting today. Oh, did the internet cut out?
It did momentarily, but we didn't lose any words. I was going to stop you if it did. Keep going.
Okay, good. Okay. Unfortunately, his smile isn't directed at me. My heart aches as I watch him chatting animatedly with a cute girl holding a ukulele. Lily hands me my drink before disappearing into the crowd to hang out with her friends. This place is nuts. Just looking around, it gives me anxiety. There's nowhere to sit, I complain as people squeeze past us. Heck, there's nowhere to stand. Nah, it's fine, Jessie says confidently, plopping down on the coffee table, already cluttered with coffee cups and a hookah the customers before us abandoned. She points to an old guitar case next to her. Neither of these are chairs, I say, but she just shrugs. Natura is Jessie's second home, so she'd know better than I would that the case, oh, sorry, the case is, the case edges of the guitar are duct taped together. There's a giraffe painted on the front. Carefully, I sit down. Everything Jessie owns is customized in some way. Her notebook of song lyrics is made from old cereal boxes, and there's scribbles on her shoes. Are you sure this is okay? I ask. I don't want to ruin her guitar case. Yeah, don't worry about it. But it's me, and I worry about everything. I sit lightly on the case. It's honestly not very comfortable, but it gets me slightly out of the way of the crowd coming and going from the shop. I take a deep breath and sip my boba tea. The sugary honeydew flavor hurts my teeth, but it tastes good. People flutter around everywhere with constant motion. It's almost hard to focus on the conversation Jessie and I are having. Then suddenly her head jerks up and she looks at someone. I follow her eyes, panic rising in my chest. Cute hat guy stands like 2 feet away from me. Why is he standing right there? Oh my God, why is he looking at me? Why is he so much cuter up close? His brown hair is a little shaggy and looks impossibly soft. I try and fail not to stare like a weirdo. Is this okay? Jessie points to the guitar case, and I suddenly realize the guitar case was never hers. No. Nope. I'm sitting on the cute boy's guitar case. This is the worst moment of my life. I watched his adorable face twist into a hesitant expression, like he's trying to figure out a polite response, but I am a total stranger sitting right on top of his musical instrument. Yeah, just don't. He begins and starts to shift his weight from side to side. Just don't what? Don't crush his guitar? Does this mean he thinks I'm fat? No. No way. A normal sized person could totally crush a guitar in a guitar case. Wait, could they? Oh my God, he thinks I'm fat. The cute boy thinks I'm fat. I need to leave. I need to go home. Tonight is cursed. I can feel my face getting redder as he stands there and stares at me with his pretty big eyes. I open my mouth to speak, but words are so not a thing right now. And considering my current train of thought, maybe it's better that way. I imagine trying to start a conversation with him a dozen of times, but how can I bounce back from this? No conversation in history has ever gone, hey, how did you meet your husband? Oh, I almost crushed his guitar with my butt. So I'll stop there. So that's how I officially kind of started talking to my husband.
Oh, that is great.
Yeah.
That is really great. So this is a collection of how many stories are in this book?
There are, let me see if it says on the front. It's fun because it's broken up into sections. So it's how sweet it was, and that's kind of the sentimental ones. How funny it was, and that is where my story is. How timely, so that's the kind of time focused ones, and then how funny part 2, because apparently there's a lot of funny meetings of spouses. But let's see, I think it's 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 12 stories.
So it's 12 different authors, or did you write
12
all
different
these?
authors.
12
Yeah.
different
Oh, wait.
authors.
Nope. There's more.
Ah,
12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 16. 16 different authors. Yeah.
16 authors. Oh, that's
And
fantastic.
a couple of the Indie Book Fest authors are in here too, which is really
Hold
fun.
up the cover again for
Oh,
anybody
yeah.
that's watching on video. So if you're watching on video, it is, oh, it's a hardback. How I Met My Other, True Stories, True Love, edited by Ariel. How do you say her last name?
She's one of my good friends, and I'm still having a moment where I'm like,
Ariel has edited it, and she's done an excellent job. That was really good. I really like that.
oh,
And
thank
that's
you.
just a section, so I'm dying to read the rest of it, so I'll have to find it. Is it on Amazon?
It's on Amazon in paperback and hardcover, and then Kindle as well. There's an ebook version of it. There is not an audiobook, but gosh, would an audiobook be fun of this one? Like,
That would be, because you could get each author to narrate their own
mhm.
stories. And if you use Find a Way, don't use ACX because, sorry, Jeff Bezos, but ACX will will make you sign a 7-year contract.
Oh,
Yeah. So, but Find a Way Voices is fantastic. My first audiobook is through them, and then my editor and my audio girl are waiting for the second book, which I'm just finishing the last 2 chapters. So, anybody listening who is waiting for the book, it is going to be finished. I keep saying it's going to be out, this month, and then I get sick. Like I was sick all of December and almost all of January. Then I was out of town at a family reunion last week. So that was more fun than writing. But
that's good.
yeah, definitely. But I told my editor, she called me this morning, where's the book? I said, hey, it's coming, it's coming. But when you get ready to do, like I said, if you go through Find a Way Voices, you can find um, uh, uh, narrators through there, or you can narrate your own things and just submit your files to them, and they list all of the things that you need to do. And it's not that it's easy, but it's a lot less difficult. And I know a lot of times people will get their microphone and they put a blanket over themselves and they talk under the blanket. And supposedly that works well. And I've done audio in my closet. It's very small,
Nice.
and there's clothes just completely surrounding me. And so, but I have a nicer office now that I share with my daughter, and I kicked her out this morning. But she's usually over on the side there playing video games.
Oh, that's
so.
cute. I've tried to record audiobooks a couple of times. Whenever A Girl Called Monster came out, I was like, okay, I have a goal. The next 3 months, I'm gonna get an audiobook like done and recorded, and it's gonna be great. And like you were saying, it's like every time you want to sit and record, your throat is like, hey, what
Yeah.
if you were sick today?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
also, it's just such a skill. And that's at Find a Way Voices is one of the ones on my list, because they were at Indie Book Fest one year and gave a really great presentation. And
I think
yeah.
that was 2 years ago. That was, and I went to the presentation, and I chatted with them a bunch, and they were great. And I was able to text them and say, hey, it's Melissa from Orlando, and did you have done these things yet? Because these are the things I need you to do to make it better for me. And they're really good about that. The guys from Vellum are really great too. I was at
Oh,
a
I've heard good things about
con,
them.
Brad. I was at a con in Chicago, and I met the guys before they went up to give their talk, and I said, got to let you know that I write in your program. I don't just use it for formatting. I write in it. And I used to use Scrivener, and there's so much. You can put so much in there that it was too much. And I was finding myself doing all these possibilities and keeping all these options. And then I would get nothing done because I was just keeping everything. But with Vellum, I write the one chapter in Vellum. You just have to write offline because there's a glitch, not from
Mm.
them, but from your Mac, that it will make it jump from inside the somewhere in there to the very top. So you get
Oh,
half a
weird.
word written and then it'll jump to the top. So, but it's better to write when you're offline anyway, because
Hmm.
otherwise,
The internet, Pinterest.
you get nothing done. Absolutely nothing done. Okay, so you got these. You have you're in 2 books you've written, plus you're in an anthology.
Hmm.
So, what are you working on now that's going to come out next?
Oh man. Okay. So my next thing that's with my editor right now is called Dear Galaxy, and it's a 1950s inspired space road trip romance. So I'm looking at my
Love
desk and
it.
I'm still seeing I have like notes just scattered around of like, make sure that uh, the space age ladies guide to romance like title is consistent throughout, because my main character is an advice columnist for her school newspaper, and so she's got this very kind of swoony romantic personality where she's reading all these love letters and giving this advice, but she's honestly pretty inexperienced. And she is just like, man, I wish someone would write a letter to me. Like, how cool would that be? And one day she gets a letter to her persona. So it's not to her,
Yeah,
Susie, it's to Miss Galaxy. And you have an anonymous admirer writing to an anonymous
I like
advice
that.
columnist.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so she gets sent on a scavenger hunt through the stars to try to figure out who her secret admirer is.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. How close
It
are you to
was
being done?
well, so I finished the manuscript and I sent it to my editor, and she is I think she's probably a third of the way. I think I get my edits back end of March, and then it will be probably a decent amount of work of just tightening up the story. Kind of, it's my first time writing in outer space, and so it's been fun and challenging. And also, since it's very like Jetsons inspired, there's an amount of like real world rules that I don't necessarily have to follow, but you still want to make it like plausible and not take
Yeah.
the reader out of the moment. So I think edits will probably take a couple of weeks, if not like a month, depending on how many notes I have and how much I have to tidy up. But I'm really excited. So the plan is after March, get that all tightened up, and then for this one, I'm gonna query agents and small presses, and we'll kind of see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds great. So when it's ready, let us know. Let us,
Yes.
by us I mean me. Let me know, and so you can come back on the
Oh my
week that
God.
it
Yeah.
premieres and talk about it, and that'll give me time also then to get a copy and read it before we talk.
Yeah, we could do like a giveaway, read a sample chapter, or not a whole
Yes.
chapter, that would be too much, but a sample scene, like,
Yeah. 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 That sounds great, and I
yeah,
love that kind of story. So I mean, I love. Well, I'll read. I love everything. I'll read
yeah.
anything and everything. So, but it sounds great.
Thank you. It's my first time writing something where the entire plot strings on a romance. So Confidence had some romance in it. A Girl Called Monster really didn't. And then my short stories, most of them have some sort of romantic element in there. But this is my first like novel where I'm like, I'm diving in. We're gonna write romance. It's gonna be cute and swoony. And my grandma is so excited. She's like,
Really? Is
it
she
was
like
so
romance?
yeah, I mean, she likes romance, and then also, I mean, the 50s is the time when she fell in love with my grandpa too. So I
Yeah.
think it's just going to be a fun one for her to read. And she every time I talk to her, she's like, "How's that space romance coming?" And I opened up my birthday was actually yesterday, and she sent
Oh,
a
happy birthday.
thanks 30-year-old now. So in the birthday card, it was like, happy birthday, Paige. How's the space romance coming? I was like, I have to call her and be like, it's an editing, grandma. I'll let you know.
Oh, that's funny. My own mom, she has dementia now, so she doesn't remember that I write.
Mhm.
But when she did remember, it was always, "Where's the love? There's no love in your books. I
Oh.
write mysteries. There's
Mhm.
no love." I said, there's no time for love. They're usually a 48-hour time frame, and they're too busy trying to get through whatever they're getting, their misadventures. So there's no
There's a
love.
murder to catch. There's no time for
There's no
kissing.
time, really. Now this last one that I'm trying to finish up, there's a guy that she likes, and I said to my editor, she's almost a little too
Oh.
gung-ho trying to get this guy, but nothing ever works out for her. So
Do you watch Miss Fisher?
I don't. I've got such a long list. I try not to watch too much TV because I love TV. I love the movies. My husband and I are going to go see Harley Quinn tonight at 6.
Oh, fun.
So I've been dying to see it. Then I'm going to go see it again on Sunday. I already know I'm going to love it. So just I love the ads. But anyway, what did you ask me?
Oh, Miss Fisher. I was wondering
Miss
if you
Fisher.
watched it.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I need to. What channel is that on?
I know it's on Netflix, and then I think it's on like an Australian network.
So it
So
is on Netflix. I have Netflix.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to watch the 3rd season of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I need to watch the
It's
next
so
season.
good.
And I need to watch the next season of Jack Ryan. And I need to we watched, the shows we've been watching though were in real time, which was The Mandalorian and Picard.
Oh my God,
So
The Mandalorian was so
I
good.
know I brought out when we were going out to our family reunion, we brought because we're right by Orlando. So
Okay, yeah.
we went up there to get the Mandalorian t-shirts and socks for everybody.
Cute.
So yeah, except then I said, I didn't buy any for myself.
You gotta go back. Yeah.
I gotta go back and get myself a pair of socks.
Oh my gosh. I love the character development in that show. Just
Yeah.
the small details to the Mandalorian's character. I was watching it with my husband and I looked at him. I'm like, have you noticed how polite he is? He always says thank you when it's like kind of warranted or not even, but it's so unexpected to see this kind of like tough anti-hero sort of character
Yeah.
be so like thoughtful and like gracious about stuff. I was and I also liked how all of the characters around him always seem a little taken aback. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
you can, yeah, I don't know, you can be a bounty hunter, but you can have
You still be a nice
manners.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like the relationship between he and the child.
Mm-hmm.
They, especially with the child's in there and looking at him and reaching out, with the one hand to touch things, but they're keeping eye contact. And that's such a little kid. A little kid will do that. And it really made it. And then he just, I don't know, just everything he did with that child was very father. And and if you haven't watched the ending, I'm going to spoil it, but you've had time to watch it, so it's
Yeah.
not my fault.
Warning, there's a spoiler coming up.
Yeah, spoiler. So stop
Whole
listening.
couple minutes. Yeah.
Really? No, don't stop listening. Just cover your ears.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the end, when she does his armor and then gives him that little crest and calls him the parent, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And we were all just, oh my God, it's so wonderful. It was just wonderful, but it just reaffirmed that relationship between the two.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband, I think he said it or I said it, one of us said, the child needs to be in every season, and they can't, if they get rid of the child, they've lost the show, because it's all about that relationship between the father and the son.
I think the moment that Baby Yoda, the child, is not in the show, the show's over. I think that I think that is the story, and the minute that that's wrapped up, it's probably going to be the season finale, because I would be surprised. My hope is whatever happens, if they find the planet or whatever, it's like, you know what, family is family, and I'm this child's dad, and then they go back to the planet with the cute lady, and they raise their
yeah. Or the wrestler, Kara something or other.
Yeah.
Oh, she's fantastic.
She's great.
Oh my God.
That's all I want. I'm such a slice of life girl, where I'm just like, everyone could just be happy.
Yeah, but you're right though. He's such a polite guy, and just, you never see his face except one time you do see his face.
Yeah.
I was surprised they showed his face, but just the way he would, somebody said something to him and he kind of turned his helmet and looks at them, and you can just see him rolling his eyes.
Yeah.
It's I guess it's he and two other actors that wear the uniform, but he does the
Oh,
voice. Yeah, because he's been on Broadway doing something. So some of the time it
how
was some of the time it was somebody else, but they talked, at least one other person, they talked about how the walk would be and how they would handle the character moving and things to make sure that it was consistent. But yeah, the guy who was from Game of Thrones, the guy
Mhm.
playing the Mandalorian, he was on Broadway with something.
Wow.
Yeah. So while they were filming
That's
the end of, or the last half of the show. Yeah, I know. I thought, wow, I wouldn't think
that's
that.
wild.
Yeah.
Uh,
And I remember when they did show his face, I thought that doesn't look like the actor,
yeah,
but it was
that's
him. And I didn't think it looked
huh.
anything like him. It was very strange. But there's a great video of he and Poe from the Star Wars films reading Google searches about each other. And the guy who plays the Mandalorian, he is so goofy. And he
Really?
cannot, oh yeah, I have to see if I can find it, and I'll put it in the show links if anybody else is interested. I'll see if I can find it. If anybody can find it, you put it in the show. You give us a comment and you tell us where it is. But he was so goofy and falling off his chair and laughing and giggling and just, he was so funny. It was fantastic. And the two seem to have a great relationship. All of the Star
Oh,
Wars actors seem to have great relationships when you see them.
oh yeah,
They all seem to be having such a great time.
they
And
really do. It
yeah, I
it
mean,
does seem like oh, I'm sorry.
oh no, go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, I was just
Yeah,
saying it just seems like they really have like a very strong bond and friendship with each other. Whenever you see the interviews and like them all in group things, it's very sweet. Like,
yeah, it's been a fun franchise to watch. I was 13 when the first movie came out in
oh
1977,
wow.
so I've been a fan since. I mean, I can remember watching the trailers on TV before the movie came out,
Oh my
and me
goodness.
going, "That's what I want to be at the theater to see," and going to see it at the theater in the days when the screens were huge. Nowadays, the screen's like a TV screen, but in those early days, I mean, we went and we sat in the front row, and you're moving your head from side to side as you're trying to read the crawl that starts in the very beginning. But I've been a fan, like I said, since then. And I always joke that in my heart, there's only that one movie because it was a great movie. It concluded nicely. There was no reason to find out why Darth Vader was the way he was. I don't care about all those
Mm,
relationships. I don't need any of that other stuff. But I still like those movies. But I would have been okay with nothing more ever again.
that's really interesting. Like for you, it's like a good standalone novel where you're like, I don't really
Yes.
need a sequel or huh.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of times they'll do sequels when they're not warranted. There's no reason to
Mhm.
have the sequel. But there've been some good Star Wars movies. I've enjoyed all of them. I like Rogue One. Everybody goes on and on about how they
Yeah.
hated it. And I thought it was a really good story.
I thought
And
it
it
was
was,
really good. I was not invested in the characters until the last 40 to it was a long movie. Like probably the last
yeah,
half hour, that was when I realized when consequences started to happen
yeah,
that I actually cared about all of them. Where at first I was, I don't know, for a little bit I was like, I mean, I don't know. I don't really know that I've
yeah.
built the emotional connection to anyone. And then people started dying, and I was like, okay.
No, they're dying.
Yeah.
Yeah. And spoilers again, if you haven't seen that movie, it's been out a really long time and you have really need to watch movies. But the fact that they all died, that was the only way they could have had it. And
Yeah.
because in A New Hope, they said a lot of people died to bring this information to whatever, the little disc that
Mhm.
R2D2 had, the battle plans. And it was always the joke after the first one that, oh, the engineer made it flaw on purpose, and that was a really great way to put in there them trying to, rebel against what they couldn't get out of.
Mm.
But I've liked all of them. I loved the girl that got so much slack from people that she
Oh,
had to leave social media.
Rose. I
Yes. Oh, I
oh, I love her
love
so
her.
much. Yeah, I'm Rose Tico fan. She deserved better. Um,
Yes, she
I
needed a
would have.
whole movie with just
Oh,
her character. Oh, she was kick-ass. She was
yeah,
so good.
she was great. Yeah, we're
Yeah,
we're
and
in the same level of anger with that. We're like,
I guess if Carrie Fisher had lived, then there would have been more because her character was with Carrie Fisher. So
yeah, that's what I heard.
yeah, would have been more. But I think they should have just. Oh, I know people are rolling over right now. They should have just recast Carrie Fisher. I know, but it's
I don't know, because I I do think when they do the CGI flashbacks, there are girls that I know in real life that are cosplayers and stuff that would look more like a young Carrie Fisher than the CGI face.
Yeah.
Um,
Now her daughter did the flashback with when she and Luke were young and he was training her. That was her daughter.
was it really? Because
If I'm remembering right,
I thought it
it
looked like there was a lot of editing. Like
there
they
might have
kind of
been to make her daughter look more. I don't remember what her daughter looks
maybe.
like, but I remember reading somewhere that her daughter did that part, and I was thinking back,
Well,
same thing, thinking I thought it was CGI. Because the CGI at
if
the
it
end of
really was her daughter, that's very sweet.
supposedly it was her daughter. I'll
Yeah.
have to look again, but I think it was her daughter, which yeah,
If it
was great.
I love that if that was.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
um
Have you speaking of Star Wars? Have you watched Adam Driver's Saturday Night
yeah,
Live,
all of
the
them.
Undercover Boss? Undercover
Undercover
Boss.
Boss. Oh my
That
gosh.
was hysterical. If you have not watched it, if you're listening, you need to, after this is over and you've
Mhm.
left a comment, then you need to go and look at the YouTube channel of Saturday Night Live and see Adam Driver's Undercover Boss as Kylo Ren going in,
So
trying to figure
funny.
out why things aren't working the way they are. And they're hysterical. He's so funny without ever cracking a smile.
Yeah.
It's just so well done. So well done.
And
And I've never released. I didn't ever watch Girls, so I didn't know who he
no,
was.
me neither. Yeah.
And I thought he was just whiny. I'm not a Kylo Ren fan because he was. It's like Luke Skywalker was so whiny. Oh my God, he was whiny. And then Darth Vader as a teenager, he was so whiny. The men in that family were so whiny. The women were take charge and kick ass, and they didn't sit around whining. They did stuff.
Yeah.
It was, it should have been, all about the women it should have been about more about Leia. Well, she helped the
Yeah,
movie. Without her, none of that would have happened in the first movie.
it's true. I love me some angsty goth Kylo Ren. It's just I did hear an argument in his favor where someone was like, he's scary because you do not know what he's gonna do. Because
Oh, Kylo Ren.
yeah, because he's such a
Yeah,
all over
yeah,
the place. And I think through the movies he gets less scary. The more that there's so many good memes of just him being like touches hands with a girl. And then he's like,
yeah.
all right, okay, maybe I'm different now. You brought up the marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I have a fun fact for both you and anyone who's listening. I'm actually in the third season.
Are you? Where are you
Yeah.
in the third
So
season?
I'm also in Florida. So they were filming actually in Miami when they get to the Fontainebleau, and I there was a casting call that was put out, and I ended up getting placed behind the check-in desk. So that opening for the episode when she checks into the Fontainebleau, there is a lady that she's talking to. I am next to the lady she's talking to.
Oh,
So
nice. Well, now I
you
gotta
can
go
see a
watch.
little bit of my face, and then there's some shoulder action, a little bit of my arm. But it
Yeah,
was a really cool experience. I was there for 2 days to film that intro sequence pretty much. There were a couple other short scenes that were filmed in that time, but pretty much it was just Midge checking in and the scene where she walks down the staircase. And that was like a 12-hour day thing. It's
yeah,
just, film is crazy. Like it's so cool just the detail that was put into it. Like even
yeah,
for us extras, like the continuity of which bracelet were you wearing yesterday, because we need to make sure you're wearing the exact bracelet, and
yeah.
what color were your nails, and it was very like a very cool experience.
Yeah. Did you have to wear 50s clothes?
I did, and
You
also
get to.
I wear them like all the time. So um it was funny because my mom and sister, it was kind of around the same time as my mom's birthday, so we all went to Miami together as a trip, and then I went and filmed, and they like hung out and relaxed by the pool, but they walked through the lobby because it was active hotel while we were filming, so
Yeah.
they would have to take like a break, let a bunch of guests through, and then close the set again. And so Lily, my twin sister, and my mom walked through with their camera, just like snapping pictures. They're like, It was so hard to find you because normally you're the only person in the crowd wearing a 50s dress. And now everyone's wearing
Everybody was.
50s dresses. They're all dressed like Paige. How do we find her? But whenever I had a minute, I was like, I'm behind the desk. And they kind of had a moment where they could see me, which was pretty cool. Like, but yeah, I had a very like a cream wiggle dress with like beading on the top.
Uh-huh.
Very pretty.
Oh, fun, fun. When we used to live in Alabama,
Mhm.
and when Tim Burton filmed Big Fish, my daughter
Oh.
and I were extras for
Oh,
a week.
cool.
So all of the sports scenes with Ewan McGregor were in the
Uh-huh.
background. And I think the one you see us the most, very briefly, is in the gymnasium when he shoots a basket, which Ewan McGregor could not do, and they had to have somebody out of shot dropping it into the thing for him. Um, but we're behind the cheerleaders, and for a moment you see us before they stand up, and so we to make ourselves visible. We were for all the sporting events, and then the circus scenes. We were in the circus scenes too. I always made sure that I stood up first when the circus scene, when they leave the circus tent,
Mhm.
I'm the very last one out. And I tell you, walking out, the urge to turn around, look back was so big, but I knew if I did it, they would kill me, which I
They'd be
didn't
like,
do.
"Hey."
I know, because it was all one steady shot. They had everybody leaving and then showing it,
Oh.
and they sped up the motion to make it go really fast. But yeah, it's that we had to wear 50s clothes.
Oh my
So
gosh.
but the fun thing was that they had dressed us and we had these outfits, and I actually found the pictures the other day. Um, the original outfits that we were in were the ugliest outfits, and we were walking down. It was the main set was a high school that was no longer being used in Cloverdale, Alabama. Old Cloverdale. It's an old ritzy neighborhood. And so we're walking down the hallway, my daughter and I. She was 16 at the time, and she had her hair in a ponytail. I mean, she looked like the typical kid right off of
Mhm.
the Happy Days set. So we're walking, or she didn't at that moment, but she did later. So we're walking down the hallway, and the lady who was the costumer who won an Oscar, she was walking up the hallway and saw us and went, "No." And she took us and she dressed us herself. And that was just fascinating to watch her pick out things. And I don't know if I have a picture of before, but the after was just amazing. And so my 16-year-old, the poodle skirt with the little sweater and
Oh.
the ponytail and everything, and she just looked, so when she was and she was very nonplussed by all this. And so she's on the set I wasn't in the carnival scenes, but she was, so because she was young and they wanted young kids in the
Mhm.
background. So she had Danny DeVito and Ewan McGregor and somebody else all chatting her up because she was so adorable. And she's like, "Yeah, they talked to me about stuff, just very who cares." Like,
Whatever.
child. But that was fun. And we did for a museum, we did a tourism video. And after
Oh,
that, and we had to
cool.
wear 1880s clothing, and that was fun. But after
Ooh.
that, and that played on the tourism thing when you went to that place, it showed the video of us over and over and over, the thingy.
Yeah.
But she said to me, "Never again, never, never, never." And I said, "Hey, we made a lot of money." And I said, "That
Yeah.
took a long time for you to spend all that money that you made to work in that movie, but it was fun." So I have to go down. Which episode of Mrs. Maisel was the one where
Oh,
she went to Miami? Was it the first
it's
one of the
it's
season?
the first one where she goes to Miami. It's not the first episode. I can't remember the episode number. It's either comedy or cabbage, or I think there's something that's just Fountain Blue, something or other. But if you're on Amazon and you're looking at the thumbnails, it's like the description is like Midge arrives in Miami, and
That's the
it's
one to
that one,
watch.
yeah.
Oh, I can't
But
wait to watch it then.
it was real fun, yeah. And plus that season is just so good. Like it's excellent, yeah.
Yeah, I love Tony Shalhoub especially.
Yeah,
And
he's
I
great.
loved last season. He had so much to do. First season he didn't have a lot, but the last
Mhm.
season when he and his wife Maren Hinkle, when they went to France, was it France?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was just great. I loved the characters, how they interacted,
Mhm.
and it was nice to see her character happy,
Yeah, I
because
agree.
she was so unhappy in that first season. It just I don't know, just always kind of frowning. And
Mhm.
but yeah, it's on my list to watch. And there's just, I have so many. I think I taped a bunch of stuff while we were gone. The Flash is back. I gotta watch that. And that's the only DC one. I think I taped the last Arrow. I never watched the show. I watched the first one, and then I love origin stories. And they skipped the origin story and they went right into, I'm like, oh,
Oh.
you lost me. He's on the island, and then all of a sudden he's home, and there's no him becoming this character.
Do you think
And
they'll do
maybe they
a flashback or
maybe they show it later. I don't know, but they lost me with that first episode. So, but I love, I'm a huge Doctor Who fan. I love the. Do
Mm,
you like the new season of Doctor Who?
I fell off Doctor Who probably the second season with
Peter
can't remember his
Capaldi.
name. Yes. And there wasn't a particular reason. I think I just kind of started getting bored. It was right after the Clara arc, I think. So he hadn't gotten a new companion yet, and
Yeah.
um, I really love the actress who plays Clara, but I think
Yes.
the the storyline kept kind of getting a little repetitive, if I'm remembering right, at that
Yeah.
point. And there's just so much. There's, like you were saying, there's so much to watch that it was
Yeah.
one of those. Oh, we'll probably catch up. And then when the new doctor, I can't remember her name, whenever she got introduced, they were like,
And I
they were
really,
like, everyone was like, "Oh man, try it out. It's really good." And I haven't done
yeah.
it yet.
The
Yeah.
I didn't like last season. She was a whiny woman who kept asking everybody to help her. And
Mm.
it was really annoying because that's not the doctor. The doctor is confident, and she was not confident that first season. Now she could be not confident the first episode because she's just become, the new doctor. But to spend the entire season, what do you think I should do? What do you think I should do? That's what it felt like the whole season. It was just
Mm.
not the doctor. And the guy, Chris Chibal, who did Broadchurch with her, she was
Mhm.
excellent in that. Excellent in Attack the Block. If have not seen Attack the Block, get it, because it was excellent. She's just this lady and coming home, and late at night, and there's a bunch of kids, and aliens land, and they're all trying to survive this one
Oh
night.
wow.
And it's so good. Jodie Whittaker.
Mm.
Okay, so yeah, but this season, this new, and the first season, the showrunner had said, well, I'm not going to have any of that other stuff you expect. It's going to be totally different. Well, it was totally boring because there was no
Ah.
characters that you expect to see with Doctor Who. There were 3 companions, so you didn't get to know any of them really because
Mm.
there were so many of them. She was whiny all the time, and what should I do? What should I do? Yuck. But this season, she's got her confidence. She's clever, and that's what the Doctor is clever. And
Mm.
that was missing. And they've already had John Barrowman was on last week,
Oh, nice.
and it's like, yes, but he didn't see the doctor, but he thought somebody else was the doctor. So he was chatting with that guy, grabs him and kisses him. Doctor, it's so good to see you. And the guy's like, I'm not the doctor.
That's funny.
And yeah, he's fantastic. And I think the Cybermen are coming back.
Oh
And
gosh.
yeah, because he talked about the Cybermen. And then the Master is back.
Oh, interesting.
And and I think the Daleks, they mentioned the Daleks. So I think the showrunner understood that the doctor's clever. You got to make the doctor
Mhm.
clever, and then you got to have the things that people who love Doctor Who expect. I want to see all those characters of the doctors always battling, and I want to have adventure. And yeah, Peter Capaldi, I loved him in The Loop. He was amazing in The Loop. If you haven't seen it,
No, I
it's
don't think I
another one
have.
on you. It's a British show. It's funny. He is so funny in it, but he was not a good doctor. And I
I
love the
didn't.
actor. I was so excited when he was signed up, but he didn't work. It didn't work.
Yeah, I don't remember necessarily disliking him as the doctor. I think I just was having trouble with whatever the plot things were around. Oops, tapped my microphone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there were issues
Mhm.
and yeah, Claire was great. I was just thinking of Claire the other day because people were bitching about there's a black version of the doctor that you meet, and they're, oh, the doctor can't be black. Well,
Why not?
there's was a black woman time lord that Clara interacted with. So it's like, oh, come on, people, the doctor can be anything.
Yeah.
And I was a little reluctant for a woman to be the doctor, just because I thought, well, I'm tired of them changing roles and then putting a woman in it. Write a kick-ass role that's originated for a woman. I'd like to see that, But I came around. I really like Jodie Whittaker, and even when she was the first season when she was floundering, I still liked her. But I like her. She was excellent in
Mm.
Broadchurch, like I said, and Attack the Block is a must see. Simon Pegg is not in it, but Nick Frost is. So, and I kept expecting Simon Pegg to show up, but I don't think he was in it. But Nick Frost had a role in it. But it's like 6 or 7 kids in one of the low income housing units, and they're all trying to survive this night with these aliens. And there's some funny things, and there's some sad things, and there's some scary things, but it's definitely worth a watch. Most definitely. And if anybody who wants an introduction to Jodie Whittaker outside of Doctor Who, that and Broadchurch. Broadchurch is very sad. It's about the death of a child and trying to find out who killed that child, and the whole season. So it's very tear jerky, but she was excellent in that, and David Tennant's in that too.
I do love David Tennant. That he's, I feel like everyone, whoever their first doctor was, they have the fondness for, and he's the one that whenever I started watching, that was what Matt, my husband, and I binged through, and so good. Yeah,
mine was Tom Baker.
So, okay.
And I remember when I was very young, we lived in Boston, and we had, in my day, we had 3 channels and UHF, which is all we had, and UHF are blurry, but we had the PBS channel, and we had Doctor Who, and we had the first Doctor. So, I would watch those as a kid, but it didn't really resonate with me until Tom Baker's episodes.
Gotcha.
And I saw one the other day and thought, I don't remember this at all, but I know I've seen it, probably because I would watch them on PBS. But yeah, all good stuff. All good stuff. So I've had you on for ages now, probably over an hour. So I've had you on for over an hour, and the smiling man with the shoulders has not wandered through. So your husband.
Oh,
how did you describe him in the
Oh, with shoulders that you could snuggle into?
Yeah, you could snuggle into it. I'm like, well, maybe I'll wander through.
He's working.
So, okay, if you're on video, he's not going to wander through. You'll have to get the book and read the story, and hold that one up one more time so people can see that one. Okay, so is that a hardcover? Am I right in saying it's a hardcover?
Yeah, this one's a hard. They do have it in paperback and Kindle, all of the things.
I love that. How I Met My Other. Those are great. True stories, true love. And then this one is the book that started it all for me. And this was your first book back in 2015. Is that right?
That was, it was a NaNoWriMo story. And that was kind of the thing that got me to finally finish a novel. I had like a million of half-finished ones before that. And
I think most writers have a million or so. Do you want to go back and revisit those, or do you use those as training tools and just move forward?
There's a big old collection of them that I probably will never touch again, but once in a while I'll have an idea for one, and I'll remember the other day I was thinking like, oh, remember like the story about the mortician who was a vampire getting married to the lady who can see ghosts? That was interesting. And I kind of opened it up and I went through and I read some of it, and I went, this is an idea that I might use in the future.
I'd like you to revisit that, because I want to read that one. I want to read that one after the science fiction one, and possibly the one about the girl that's Frankenstein. That's
A Girl Called Monster. That one is pretty fun too.
Yeah, that's good too. Yeah. So this is Confidence, a Diary of an Invisible Girl. It is a diary, but do not let that fool you. Excuse me, because it's great. It's really great. I didn't want to stop reading, and I love the characters. And there's one spot where it's like, oh my God, that's ridiculous. And then I went, actually, that is ridiculous and funny. And then they make use of it later, and I don't even want to say what, but because I don't want to spoil it for anybody. But I think you thoroughly enjoy it. And if you like Comic-Con, if you've ever been to Comic-Con, then you definitely want to read this. I've only been a couple times. We went to one in 1983.
Oh, wow.
Before it was a big thing, and it was in like a Ramada Inn in San Francisco. And the room, Leonard Nimoy spoke, Michelle Barrett spoke. the room was so small. It was like one of those rooms that you go to and there's a couple hundred chairs and that's it. It was
Oh,
just,
wow.
it was
Just
that,
imagining that at such a small scale
yeah.
is wild. Yeah.
Yeah, it was absolutely wild. And I remember Leonard Nimoy was really great. And we have some of his records, but my sister and I drew all over them. So I couldn't bring one to try to get an autograph because we drew all over them in bad ways. So,
Oh.
and the only one that's
Oh.
not drawn over is my William Shatner Transform Man album. But I couldn't
Cute.
bring that one because he's not William Shatner. But this one kid, they had a Q&A session. This one kid got up and he said, how come when the Enterprise is in danger, the saucer section doesn't ever separate from the main portion? And I said later to somebody, that's where they got it from. This kid at the thing said it, and Leonard Nimoy said, oh, we got a lot of space cadets here today. But he said it in a funny way. He wasn't making fun of the kid. He was a very nice gentleman.
That's cute.
But I thought I could just see the people with him going, that's a really good idea. Which is what they did later. The saucer sections separated from the main portion of the ship. And they got it from that kid at the Ramada Inn in San Francisco in 1983.
And you were there.
I was there. I saw it. Yeah. But yeah, and I think it was the second day of the convention, and Majel Barrett said, oh, most of you were here yesterday, so I won't talk about any of that stuff. And I'm like, I wasn't here. I didn't say anything, but I should have. But she talked about jewelry a lot. I guess she made jewelry or something. Anyway,
that's fun.
She was interesting. But so that, I mean, that was ours. And there was one small room with like merchandise. But that was like, I want to say that's my only time ever going to a convention. And we keep, my youngest and I keep saying that we're going to go to Dragon Con. Is that the one in Orlando?
Yeah, no, that one is in Atlanta.
We keep talking about
MegaCon is the big Orlando one.
And we keep saying we're going to do that. And there was one in Tucson that when I used to live in Tucson, they had one. I never knew it.
Wow.
And so we were there for 8 years and I could have gone, and they had all kinds of people that would go to those. And William Shatner was at the last one. I'm like, and John Barrowman. And I'm like, gosh, I had friends that got pictures. I'm like, oh man, I didn't even know, or I would have gotten a ticket, and they sold out. But one of these days, maybe my youngest and I will do that. That sounds like a lot of fun, but I will let you go. So where can people find you?
Oh man, I am all over the internet. So,
oh yeah, she has, I've interrupted her again. She's got a YouTube channel with videos, and she's got a blog, and I will have links for both of those, but go ahead and tell everybody.
Yeah. So, YouTube, I'm trying to be more active on. There's like a ton of content that's a little older about making webcomics. There's vlogs on there. There's a couple of video game playthroughs. And then I recently got on TikTok. So hello, youths. If you
I don't even know what that is. I'm too old.
It's a really fun, it's kind of like a Vine. It's an interesting like short form video platform, which I've been playing with a lot lately, and it's just been kind of like a neat like self-expression sort of thing. So that's where a lot of like weird goofy stuff has been going. Twitter, Instagram, it's all Mrs. Paige Lavoie, so MRS and then Paige Lavoie. And yeah, I try to post like different content on each social platform, so it's interesting and it's not just repeats of the same
and
stuff.
your website is
www.paigelavoie.com.
And it's L, how do you
spell
LAVOIE.com. So yeah, and so if you're listening in the car, you have to pull over to the side of the road and take a look at the show notes. We'll have everything on there of where to find Paige's books and her YouTube stuff and her website. And like I said, I wandered a little bit on there, and then I had to stop because we had to do this. And I'm like, no, I was watching videos. I don't want to stop watching them. So I got a little distracted myself, but that's where you will find these. And thank you so much for joining me today. And
thank you for having me.
Finish writing the outer space one and the one that you described a little while ago. I'll have to listen to this again to hear what the description was. But I remember listening going, oh, there was vampires and something.
The Mortician one. Yeah.
Write that one right now. I want to read that one right now. So get to work, go write. And everybody else listening, I'll be back in just a second. Thanks, Paige. I hope you enjoyed the interview. And if you leave a comment, I will throw your name into a hat for a free copy of one of Paige's ebooks. She has, I think, 3 books out right now. I should know. I just listened to the interview. Anyway, so if you leave a comment, you want to leave it either on YouTube or follow the link if you're on the podcast. Go to the show notes and follow the link for leaving a comment. If you leave it elsewhere, I will not see it. The podcast is all sorts of places, and I just have too hard a time keeping track of where comments are coming from. I'll have people say, I left a comment, you didn't say anything. I say, well, you got to leave it where I'm going to see it, which is on either YouTube or following that link that should be right at the top of the show notes. So leave a comment and I will toss those names into a hat and I will draw one randomly, and one of you will win an e-copy of one of Paige's books, and I will do that drawing on the 29th around dinner time. So I live on the East Coast, so I don't know, eat dinner around 5 or 6 o'clock. So try to get it in by like noon Eastern time on the 29th of February, leap year this year. So happy birthday to all those leap year babies who get to celebrate their special day only once every 4 years. I think I've only known one person who had a birthday on leap year. She used to go around talking about how she was like 2. I think we were in grade school. Must have been. Okay, well, I will see you next week. I'll have another great show. I will not be sick. I won't. I'll see you next week. In the meantime, go read a good book.